So I never pretend to be an expert on this podcast because I am definitely not. I don't think anyone is an expert on anything to do with parenting, to be honest, simply because every child and every family is different. But I'm going to go ahead and say it now. I am an expert on this topic. I don't think there is anyone in the world who has spent more time thinking or planning a flight with young children than I have done. I am the world expert on this subject. And that is purely because I'm terrified of flying. I've flown a lot actually and I've been all over the world and I'm still terrified about everything to do with flying. So I was really nervous about our long flight to South Africa and I was also nervous about flying with two young kids. And then all that was compounded into this huge big ball of anxiety about one making the other worse and everything just escalating and how I would look after them if I was in a complete tiz myself. And I was just spiraling since the minute we booked these flights about 5 months ago. And the background for that is that I'm on maternity leave at the moment. My mum grew up in South Africa and we have a lot of family out here still. And with Jack getting some extended paternity leave from his work, it meant that we actually, for the first time since James was born, we could go out for a considerable length of time. So we decided to go out to South Africa for 5 weeks. So that's why we're doing all this. So yeah, I've just been a big anxious mess since Alba was born, basically. And we decided that we were actually going to do this. And for better or worse, my coping technique with this is to just try and overthink and micromanage every tiny aspect. I have about 18 different notes on my notes app relating to this trip, all with various plans and what I'm going to do and lists. And that just helps me feel more in control. So, yeah, that's why I'm an expert because I have thought about this from every angle for 5 months. So if you've got a flight coming up or if you've wondered how to do it with kids, then I've got you. And if there's anything I've missed, send me a message or comment because I can pretty much guarantee I will have thought about whatever it is and I will have some sort of plan for it in my notes app. And just for anybody that's new to the podcast, and I'm talking about flying with my son James, who is 3.5 now, and my daughter Alba, who is 5 months. Okay, so number one, if it's possible at all for a long haul flight, then fly at night. We flew for 9 hours to the Bahamas with James when he was about 18 months as a day flight, as there was no other options. And I think that was the absolute limit of tolerability. It was extremely hard work keeping a small child entertained that long in a confined space. And yes, there are screens, but younger than 2, I would say, they can't watch it for that long. They just don't have the attention span. And even now, James would start to get bored of even Paw Patrol, his absolute favourite, after about 2 hours. So yeah, a night flight if you can. Our flight from Heathrow to Cape Town took off at 20 past 10 at night. And this wasn't ideal as both kids were pretty exhausted by the time we had finally taken off. But with Alba, we were just putting her in the sling and she was napping on and off. And James was just excited by being in the airport and the novelty of all that. So that managed to keep him awake quite late. There was a flight that was leaving about 6:30, and that would have been my preferred flight because it also then landed at 6:30 in the morning. But that was considerably more expensive. So yeah, it ended up working out fine. But if it's an option for you in whatever flight you're choosing, I would 100% recommend going for the night flight. So, number two, and this relates to the night flight, but even for a long day flight, I'd recommend this to be honest, and that is getting an inflatable toddler bed. You must check with your specific airline because some don't allow certain types, and it's got to be like the branded ones that they list on their website. And so we flew with British Airways, who have 4 or 5 ones you can use, but it has to be that specific brand and they have to be in certain seats. So they can't be in the aisle, not in emergency exit rows. You have to be occupying the seat beside them. So it is, it's very doable, but you have to double check all those rules before you buy one. Oh, and also there are rules about when you can use them, like during takeoff or during turbulence, but it does say all that on their website. And this was an absolute godsend. It is basically a small inflatable mattress with a support at one end, and it slots into the seat and turns it into a bed. We got a flyaway brand one because that's one of the ones that British Airways allows, and they can stay in them during turbulence. They're not cheap, but we got one on Vinted. James is quite tall for his age, 3.5. I think he's 75th centile, so he's not a giant, and he was comfortable on this, but I'm not sure he'd fit on it in a year's time. But I would say it would be comfortable for an average 4-year old or maybe a small 5-year old. I think you could get away with it. It comes with a fitted sheet and a manual pump, and it took about 5 minutes to blow up. And once we put the plain cushions on it and the plain blanket, he went to sleep and slept for about 9 hours straight on that, which was just the best thing ever. It was also really comfy for him to lounge on when he woke up in the morning, and he could kind of stretch out and play with some of his toys. And then we also used it to lay Alba out flat on it for a bit so she could have a stretch and a wriggle, and she could flip onto her tummy and things that she likes to do. It's kind of hard to explain what it is, but when this episode comes out, I'll put photos of the whole flight on TikTok and Instagram so you can see it in action. So go follow 10,000 Steps with Baby on one of those apps and you can see what I'm talking about. But yeah, highly recommend. Number 3, very obvious for all parents, but it's the sort of thing that you could be forgotten when you're in a rush, and that was to pack snacks. We got some little Kinder eggs for emergency meltdowns because it's actually not too much chocolate, so they don't go ridiculously mad off the sugar. And then it also comes with a toy. And James got a tiny monster truck toy in his the first egg that we gave him, and he was in love. He was so thrilled by it, and it entertained him for hours. This little, 1 pound snack. So, and along with snacks, I would try and keep meals at the same time as you would at home, roughly, just to try and keep them somewhat grounded amidst all the chaos. Maybe other kids aren't like this, but James's behavior just goes to pot when he gets hungry. And then if he's all worked up, it gets really difficult to actually get him to eat. So we end up in this vicious circle, which was just going to stress me out loads. So to counteract that, we tried to get to the airport like really early, much earlier than we needed to, so that we could, well, one, because that's always a good idea, and two, so that James could have dinner. And of course, best made plans and all that, but we ended up having a complete nightmare on the tube and that not working. But my overthinking brain made me pack a backup option, which was just a packet of Ritz crackers, and he ate about 100 of those instead of dinner and was happy. So snacks, make sure you don't accidentally skip meals in all the chaos. And if you do, because that's quite likely to happen, then have a backup option that isn't just chocolate so they're not going feral. Number 4. Okay, so this is also about food, but I'm going to list it separately, and that's about plain food. So plain food, not the best usually, and if it's a long flight, you'll likely have a couple of meals on the plane. It is really hard to eat food yourself when you have a baby on you, and then the very nature of how the flight attendants do things means you can end up with a tray table with some half-eaten meal on it for ages and ages, and the baby is trying to grab it, and it's difficult to get up. So, yeah, I mean, it should be fine, and if there's 2 of you, you can take it in turns, but like I said, overthinking. What I did was pack some snacks for myself, some protein granola bars, some crisps, some yogurt raisins, things that wouldn't get crushed. So I had a backup plan and I could just refuse the food if I needed to without starving to death. We also packed something for James to eat in case he didn't like what was offered. We found that the best thing was those mini cereal boxes, they have. So they're compact, they're light, and it was a novelty. And then we just asked for some milk, and that went down a treat because he obviously stuck his nose up at the cooked breakfast he was given, even though it was pretty decent actually. With British Airways Airlines, you do have to order children's meals in advance. You have to modify your booking and you have to give them at least 24 hours notice, I think. So it's not like you're not guaranteed a child's meal just because, it says that, whatever age they are. But obviously, it'd be worth checking with whichever airline you're flying with. Number 5, you've got to get those kids' ears popped. It's impossible to explain to a young child how to pop their ears, in my experience, or even get them to yawn on cue, especially once they're like getting a bit agitated if their ears haven't popped. And if it's a baby, they can just end up really agitated for hours if their ears hurt. And James is maybe a bit too young. I didn't want to give him a boiled sweet to suck because, you know, anxiety. I was thinking, oh great, he'll choke at 10,000 feet just as we're taking off. So we packed a bottle of milk for him, and the flight crew very kindly heated it up for us as we boarded. Then we gave it to him to drink literally as we started taking off down the runway. So it both helped him to fall asleep, and the sucking motion meant his ears popped. Alba, I made sure she was ready for a feed, and she breastfed on my lap during takeoff. And she's 5 months, so she gets distracted by everything. So when she was busy looking around, we just popped a dummy in her mouth. So she was doing that sucking motion while we climbed, and that worked out well too. And then I did the same for her as we landed, and James was fine with some yawning. I didn't really worry about it too much as we were landing because I felt you can just deal with everything better on the ground. A side note about milk, and that's that you're usually allowed to bring milk for babies through security without the liquid restrictions, including formula or breast milk or frozen. And you're also usually allowed to bring baby food pouches or baby food containers as long as they haven't been opened. The milk, they'll usually just take it away and test it. But yeah, worth double checking as well, just in case the rules are different where you are. Number 6, carry on packing. I rewrote this packing list about 25 times. You need so much stuff, it's ridiculous. And of course, you got to fit it all in a bag. If anyone would like the ultimate long haul flight carry on packing list that you can fit into a rucksack, admittedly, you have to like stuff it in, then let me know and I'll send it to you. But the things I was very grateful for was a steam eye mask, which was just gorgeous at 4 a.m., and some single use gel eye masks, which were gorgeous at 7 a.m. when I was trying to wake up. A change of clothes for everyone, including 2 for the baby. When we flew to South Africa when James was 7 months, we were about an hour into the flight, and one of the air crew spilt an entire glass of tomato juice all over me. So definitely bring something for yourself as well. And mini bag of cosmetics. It felt, we didn't sleep at all, but it felt so lovely to like, when it got to about 6 a.m. on the flight, to go to the bathroom and wash my face, brush my teeth, brush my hair, and put on some moisturizer and deodorant. Just made me feel like so much more human. Calpol, I think, again, it's one of those other things that you're allowed to take with you through security. They'll test it, but you don't have to, it doesn't come under the same rules about liquids. And Alba was teething while we were flying, so that was really helpful. And also, you never know when kids are going to come down with a fever or something like that. I have been told that sometimes they will have children's medicine on flights, but I've never tested that. I don't know. And a battery pack, 100%. That's just really useful. Number 7. Most people will be aware of this, but I actually met someone recently who wasn't and had been on a really long flight with their baby and didn't know this. And that's that you can request a bassinet for young babies. This has got 2 bonuses because one, you can put them in it and you don't have to have them asleep on your lap or in your lap the whole time. But also, they have the bassinets at the bulkhead sections of the plane, so the bit where you naturally get extra leg room. So you get a bit more space. You can put your rubbish stuff, the hundreds of toys and things you've got everywhere, and that's brilliant. The downside is that you have to take them out during turbulence. And for us, probably about 3 hours into the flight, we started experiencing turbulence that would kind of come on for about half an hour. The seatbelt sign would go on, and we would be told that we had to like take her out and hold her in our arms. And then things would settle down and we'd put her back in. And then that just repeated probably for about 4 hours. Yeah, probably from about 1 a.m. to close to 5 a.m. But it was better than nothing. And it was just really useful place to have You can also, on some airlines, request like a car seat reclining thing. There was a baby on our flight who was in that, and they looked really cozy and comfy in that. So I guess it depends what your baby likes. Obviously, like the safe sleep thing says that baby should be flat on their back. So make of that what you will. But if you ended up having to do a day flight, then one of those might be better because then baby can both nap in it and also play in it a bit. So yeah, something to think. But you do need to book in advance because just having a baby on the flight it doesn't guarantee you one. So yeah, I definitely recommend that. Number 8 is plan what you're going to do in the airport and have a look at the airport website. So Heathrow, for example, in the terminal we were at, has a small play area because what you really want when it's toddlers or small children is some way of wearing them out and tiring them out. We had spent the day in London, when we usually live in Manchester. We'd stayed overnight in my sister's flat. And shout out to Elle, by the way, who, funny story, I put on something on my TikTok saying, does anyone have any suggestions for activities for kids and babies in Fulham? And this girl who didn't know me all was like, yeah, I'm a member of this like amazing kids club gym type place. We've got some guest passes that we don't use. Do you want to come and use it for the day? And she was lovely. And we met up and she let us in with her guest passes and we got to go in their swimming pool and it had a soft play and it was absolutely amazing. So thank you, Elle. If you ever listen to this, you're the best person ever. But sorry, sidetrack. Yeah, we did that because we wanted to get James exhausted for this flight and not have him like full of pent up energy trying to get rid of that like on a plane. The other thing that we did at the airport is we went into the business class lounge. We weren't flying business class, but it's not usually that much money. I think well, it is okay. That sounds snobby, but I think for an adult, full price was £48. And you know what? In London or in any airport, because things are so expensive, by the time you have, say, you have to buy dinner and you get a couple of alcoholic drinks, you're probably going to be spending close to £48 a person anyway. We probably wouldn't have done that, but it was half price entry with one of our credit cards. So I would have a look at that. And sometimes you get deals online. They didn't charge us for James and they didn't charge us for Alba, obviously. But it meant that for £24 for me and Jack, we got dinner, we got James some snacks. We both had a couple of glasses of wine. And that's great for airport prices. So yeah, have a look into that. It also meant that it was a sort of area away we could put Alba on the floor and between our seats and she could have a kick about and James could run around without running off into the airport. So yeah, think about that. And number 9, the final one, is do everything you can to relax, whatever that means for you. For me, I always have my little slightly OCD things I have to do, like I have to go for a run and just I do a meditation on the Headspace app, which really helps. They've got a fear of flying one, but do whatever it is you need to do mentally. And if you're afraid of flying and you're flying with your partner, then I said to Jack, I kind of just need you to be in charge here. I need you to be the person holding it all together. Normally, we try to be a team, and as parents, you have to be a team. But I said I need if I just need to go to the bathroom at the airport and just cry in the toilet for half an hour. I need you to just not question that, not be annoyed with that, and just to take over the kids without any question. So yeah, and then just let go because once you're on the plane, once you've taken off, well, that's it. You're stuck, and whatever happens will happen, and it probably won't be as bad as you think. I mean, I'd spent so many hours being worried and anxious about this, and it was so much better. James slept for 9 hours. Alba slept for some of it. She doesn't sleep anyway, so that's neither here nor there. But yeah, just it's like all anxiety things. The build up is usually worse than the actual event, so you will be absolutely fine. And if you're not scared of flying, you're just flying with kids, then you will also be completely fine. It's got to end at some point. And the other thing is, don't worry about people hating on you for having kids. I think it's one of those things that's always worse in your own mind, or you think people are judging you, but I think people realize that babies cry and children are loud and like to run around, and if someone rolls their eyes at you, then what does it matter? Who cares? So yeah, like I said, if anyone has any questions, then send me a message or comment. And follow the show if you haven't already. I would be very pleased if you did so. And I will see you next week. Oh, and of course, I'm saying this all from South Africa. We made it here. We're having a lovely time. It's great. Okay, bye now.